Please welcome to the stage Jyothi Swaroop, CMO at Nylas, and Tasia Potasinski, VP of Product Marketing at Nylas.
Good morning. All right, let's try that again. Good morning. Yeah, there we go. That's more like it. 9 a.m. presentations in Silicon Valley is, it's interesting. People still haven't caffeinated enough. And I'm glad you all showed up. I really appreciate you coming in early, beating the traffic, and being here. Look, we're excited to be here. I'm Jyothi Swaroop. I'm the CMO of Nylas, and I'm with Tasia. I'll let her introduce herself.
VP of Product Marketing at Nylas.
So today we have an exciting topic. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I can hear my voice pretty well. But what we want to talk about today is experience and automation. And we're going to give it a marketing flavor. A lot of times customer experience is talked about in terms of user experience, product experience, or once a customer is already a customer, customer support experience and things like that. But today what we'll try to focus on is the experience of acquiring a customer with marketing and how to scale your business using that. And how automation also helps in that process, okay? So this is a very interesting and compelling stat, and this is true for our company as well. For every dollar we've invested in improving our user experience, our customer experience, we've achieved about 100x in return. And that's just not to blow you guys away. It's actually a true stat from Nylas. And for those of you who are not familiar with Nylas, we're a communications platform as a service company. What does that mean? That seems like a very complex acronym. We essentially power developers who are building powerful applications, whether at a startup or at a large company like, a logistics provider whose name starts with an F, that I can't name, unfortunately. We help them build powerful communications features into their application, which means emails, calendar, contacts, things like that, right? That's step one. And now, why is that important? Because companies spend, I don't know if you guys can still hear me. You can hear me okay. Yeah. Companies spend close to 15% of their budgets, their developer budgets, trying to build these rudimentary features into their applications. And we just help them circumvent that by providing these APIs out of the box, as well as providing an intelligence layer on top of that. Okay, enough with the shameless plug of the company. Let's move on to what we're here to talk about. So this is an interesting slide. I'm a huge fan of Tesla. I've owned a Tesla in the past. And I thought this would be a great way to talk about experience. Now, if you notice, between the Ford Model T as well as the Tesla on the screen, the fundamentals haven't really changed or shifted. The car is still 4 wheels and a steering wheel and headlights, and those things haven't really changed. What really has changed is the experience inside of the car. The experience of how you even purchase the car. I bought my car, the Tesla, on my mobile phone. What was the experience before that? It was you had to go to a showroom, deal with an agent, negotiate, haggle, and then maybe you got the price you wanted or not, right? That doesn't happen. Think about the service experience with Tesla. I go on my phone again, I pick a time, someone shows up at my door, checks my car out, tells me it's done, and goes away. That's true customer experience, whether it's through acquisition or servicing your existing customers. And that's true for SaaS companies too. Tasia is going to talk about how we actually made that happen at Nylas. I'm trying to just set this up for her, okay? The second topic we're going to talk about is automation. You get about 5x return on your marketing investments if you're able to automate the processes that you have in your marketing tech stack or with people that you have. We've noticed that in the past 18 months alone, since we've rebranded the company and hired people, just as a heads up, we've grown from 80 people company to over 300 people in just over a year. Our valuation has 7x'd. Our revenue, Tasia, since you've been here for 5 years, I think has 16x'd since we've joined the company. And when you're scaling at that pace, if you don't automate fast enough, things will break faster. Things are going to break no matter what, but they will break a lot faster if you don't automate within your marketing ecosystem. Tasha's going to cover a bit of what we actually did to improve that automation. But one of the things there are three things we think about. As a CMO, I think about efficiency, especially in this macroeconomic environment. I need to make my marketing more efficient. For every dollar I spend, I want to get more out of it. Yes, very obvious. Second, I want to improve sales and marketing alignment. My partnership with the CRO, if there's no feeling of trust between the two of us, this will just not work. I don't care how many leads I bring in, how much automation, what marketing tech stack I have in my marketing organization. It just will not work if the CRO doesn't believe in what we're doing and they do not, absorb it into the sales organization. And last but definitely not the least is within your own marketing organization, there should be a feeling of what I'm doing is actually impacting the business and revenue. So for example, if you're on the brand team, a lot of times it feels like unless you do a big brand launch, you're not really sure how are you impacting the company, like every day on a week-to-week basis. So automation and the marketing tech stack helps you align going from all the way from web traffic visitors, the number, to how many MQLs you created, to SALs and opportunities in the end, right? Last slide I have here is, this is one I wanted to animate for all of you, but SaaStr format does not allow me to animate this. But the point I wanted to make here is, in the last 10 years alone, the Fortune 500 landscape has changed a lot, right? And on this slide, you'll see just the last 2 years. The top companies in the Fortune 500 have shifted, and if you look at some research on the companies that have entered the Fortune 500 or entered the stack ranking in the top 20 or top 30, you'll notice that experience and automation are number 1 and 2 in their digital transformation process. So this is not just true for startups and SaaS companies. This is true for Fortune 500 companies, where if they focus on automation and experience, they will move up the ladder in whatever they're operating in. Okay, with that, enough of my setup. And Tasia, I'll hand it over to you to talk about how we did this with Nylas.
Awesome. Thanks, Jyothi. So yeah, messaging is really hard. It's super important to get right. It's the engine that powers everything. And you can spend millions of dollars on PR and advertising and branding. But if your message isn't right, all of that money is basically going up in flames. Think of your website as your digital storefront. You can have shiny lights, a pretty interface. It can look welcoming, but once the person walks in, if the signage on the store doesn't match what you actually sell, or if the salesperson is pitching something that doesn't match what the products are, you're instantly going to churn that customer. They'll turn around, walk out, bounce from your website, choose your preferred metaphor. So for everyone here, I'm going to challenge you to take the next 10 seconds to think of how you would describe your product in 8 to 10 words or less. Messaging is super hard. Doing it at 9 in the morning when you're not caffeinated is even harder. So sit and think about it for just a second. It's pretty hard. The fewer the words you use to describe something, the harder it is. You're like, what is this? It's 8 words. I can write 8 words in a day. Well, the work that goes into writing those 8 words takes months and months of time, dozens of conversations with internal and external stakeholders, and more. All right, next slide. Cool, so let's take a look at an example from a Nylas customer, actually, Pipedrive. I really like the messaging on their website. I think this is even 1 or 2 years old, but they use a quantifiable stat at the top, proven by some of their customers, as well as 3 value props below that, granted with some heavy copy, describe exactly what the product does and why it's valuable. When you're a new product in a new space, like many companies here at SaaStr are, you have to do additional work to teach your customers not just what your product does, but to educate them on the space as well. Nylas is in a similar position, right? We're API infrastructure for communications data. Most of you have probably never heard of that before, so not only do we have to describe what our product is, we have to define the space, and that takes a lot of work and time and effort. Great, so let's take a look at a Nylas example specifically. On the left-hand side here, you have our website from about 6 to 8 months ago, and on the right-hand side, you have it from the last, really 3 months. Some major differences here that you'll notice: the branding is different, the messaging is different. What you can't see here, because it lives in our Google Analytics data that's different, is we actually doubled the conversion on the website from around 2.5% to roughly 5%. How did we do that? Yes, the branding is better and more beautiful and more modern and sleek, but we also updated the message. And how did we do that? So For anyone who's ever done a messaging project, you know it's a ton of work. Takes roughly 3 months of time. You want to talk to dozens of internal constituents at your company, everyone from the CEO, the CTO, most recent junior BDRs and SDRs, to external constituents as well. Talk to VCs, talk to customers that you won deals with, and talk to customers that you lost deals with. Find out why and ask the hard questions about why they actually came to you and your solution and your product. What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? If you lost the deal, why did you lose the deal? All of this you can then triangulate into a clear, concise internal messaging doc that powers all of the sales talk tracks that your reps use, that powers the website, powers your PR and communications. And when you have everybody from the most recent BDR hire to the CEO speaking the same message consistently, that's how you really get conversions, that's how you get brand notoriety, and that's how you educate the market on what not just your product does, but what the space and category that you exist in is looking to achieve.
Yeah, just to add to that, right? What was the challenge? Why did we have to do this? Our business was growing, right? It wasn't like we were struggling as a business or anything. We were really doing well. As I talked about, I wanted to improve, as CMO, I wanted to improve conversion rates. Our volumes were great, top of the funnel. I wanted to improve conversion rates. So how do I do that? We wanted to shift, even before we get into conversion rates, the company also decided to go after large enterprises. So until about 18 months ago, we've almost 100% focused on SMB and mid-market customers, startups like some of you right here. But as we started going up market and started selling to the Fortune 500 Global 2000 companies, we noticed there's a massive opportunity for us. But the message that we had on the left side, I think for you, was very developer-centric. It was focused for that SMB mid-market customer who basically, wanted a hammer for a nail. They didn't want a fancy Swiss Army knife, right? They just wanted to solve a single problem with an API. But as we started swimming upstream, Tasia's challenge as the head of product marketing was to balance those two out. Target both your large enterprise customers as well as be meaningful to your SMB customers.
Exactly right. Thank you. Fantastic. So once you have your message right, then the next challenge is user experience. So user experience is both the aesthetic, the brand, the design, the creative, as well as what does the actual customer journey look like? What are they expecting from the moment that they land on the website, the first click to when they sign up to use the product, all the way through to getting them to success in the product and getting them through to being a paid customer. So at Nylas, we were looking to improve our developer sign-up to monthly active user conversion rate. It was hovering around 8 to 10% for a solid 12 months, I want to say. And through doing some user research panels, through watching videos of customers and the pain points they were struggling with and the places where they would drop off in the onboarding funnel, we optimized the entire experience to reduce the amount of data we requested from those users, as well as adding things like single sign-on for developers, which if you use SSO for GitHub, developers love that. There's an equivalent version of that for the persona that you sell to. Maybe it's not SSO for GitHub, maybe it's SSO for Gmail, maybe it's something else. But figuring out those sticking points can really help increase conversion. So through making some of those changes, through limiting the number of intake fields we asked of people in the sign-up flow, we were able to increase our monthly active conversion rate from DSU from roughly 10% to 30%. Here on the screen, I have an example of Loom and how they actually add human emotion and sort of empathy to the user onboarding experience. And I can't understate the value of that enough either. In the Nylas workflow, we do little confetti pops when people get to certain stages in the registration process. Seems kind of silly, but it actually works and encourages people to move along and to get excited to use the product and learn more.
Yeah, just to quickly add to that, user experience is not limited to the website experience, etc. You have to work with your product teams to ensure that the product experience mirrors what you're building on your website and your marketing. It's super critical because the actual end user is using the product. The website only is for the first 5 minutes and they start signing up for a demo or a trial. So that's one of the big things that Tasia's team was focused on, is to ensure that the product team's experience mirrors what we do in marketing.
Awesome. And then finally, automation. Automation is key. Probably all of you use automation already to some degree. You know that the trade-offs are when you have pure automation, you don't get as much personalization. When you have pure manual labor personalization, you don't get the scale. So in my mind, the perfect scenario is a hybrid blend of automation and manual labor. To go back to the Tesla and Ford Model T example, the Ford Model T assembly line was a combination of human and machine power. Together, they produced over 10,000 cars per day. Fast forward to 2022, Tesla, with their fully robotic factory, only produces around 1/8 of that. So kind of a fun, silly example, but hopefully proves the point that a hybrid model of automation, as well as people actually doing the work, adding personalization, setting up the workflows and streams to make those automated processes shine and work well is super critical. So go.
Yeah, just as CMOs here, maybe as heads of demand gens or VPs of marketing, it's very tempting to buy a lot of technology in your marketing tech stack to automate. Trust me, it's more work than you can imagine. If you try to buy 3 tools to solve a single problem, just integrating those tools and making sense of it takes more time away from you than actually moving the needle on your demand gen. So I would say spend the time drafting out the blueprint of where the actual gaps are. Don't get carried away by the new shiny toy in marketing automation every single time. Of course, you need something like a Marketo or a HubSpot or Salesforce. Those are the basics. But beyond that, truly think about it, especially as we're going into this macroeconomic environment of cost savings and things like that. To Tasia's point, it's a combination of human effort and technology. It's never one or the other on its own.
Awesome. And so we'll leave you with 3 key takeaways. I know you're inundated with information at this 3-day conference, but if we can leave you with 3 things. Messaging, again, is the engine that powers everything. It's hard to do. It takes months of work. It takes dozens and dozens of conversations. But if you can do that right, all of the ad spend that you're doing, the PR you're doing, all of the products that you're building, everything else becomes so much more impactful. Second, automation is super key. Find that perfect balance for your company of automation and human effort. And third, great UX is a combination of knowing what your customer needs at each point in their journey, as well as adding a human emotional layer to it to help keep them engaged and excited to use your product.
Excellent. I know we only had 15 minutes and we can't really go through heavy topics like experience and automation in 15 minutes. We tried our best, but we're available either at the Nylas booths or right after this. If you want to come out and chat, I'm happy to talk to anyone of you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.